Hello, good people. How are you today? I am going to talk today a little bit about something that relates to relationships. And I'm going to talk a little bit about anxiety in relationships. Specifically, I want to ask you this question. Is the relationship that you're in, is a romantic relationship that you may be in, making you feel really anxious? Really anxious. The kind of anxious where you can feel it in your bones, you can feel it in your body, and it's really bothering you. This is actually what we would call distress. It is causing you stress. Okay. So, there is one of the most common measures for anxiety, and it is one that is used by medical professionals, mental health professionals, and clinics and hospitals. And it's the simplest anxiety measure there is, and it's called the GAD-7. And it just basically asks a bunch of simple questions to get someone thinking about how anxious they have been feeling, all right, in many different ways. So, what we can do is we can take a few questions and we can apply those to relationships. So, you can actually consider how what these questions reflect about anxiety that you might be feeling in your relationship so that you can try to figure out, wait a minute, is it actually really anxious what I'm feeling in my relationship? See, sometimes when we get swept up in relationships, and especially when relationships start making us really anxious, sometimes we can almost detach a little bit from some perspective. We cannot realize just how anxious we are because we're in it. We are swimming in it in our minds. All right. So the goal is to take a step back and actually look at how you've been feeling lately, to look at what you've been thinking lately. And you can then figure out, does this mean that my relationship is making me really anxious? Okay. The first question is just a really basic one. So if you were to think about these questions, think about them from the perspective of how many days a week do you feel this? So just feeling generally anxious or nervous in the relationship. Just generally nervous or anxious about this relationship. How many days a week? All right. Next question. Think about this. Are you finding yourself worrying a lot about this relationship? Just worrying about it, worrying maybe what the other person is thinking or feeling, if they're still interested in you, if they're going to stay with you, or if maybe they're going to leave you, if this relationship will last, or if you might be on the verge of a breakup. Worry. Are you worrying a lot about your relationship? Think about that. And if so, about how many days a week do you find that you're feeling that? The next question I want you to think about is about if you're having difficulty not just worrying. So you're not just worrying, but once you start worrying, you're having difficulty stopping worrying or controlling the worry. So once you start worrying, you kind of get stuck in it, and it is lasting perhaps for hours. Maybe it lasts the whole afternoon or evening. Maybe you wake up in the morning and it's the first thing that comes to your mind. It's like this cloud overhead that you kind of can't get out from under. Does it feel like that? Is there worry about this relationship and you feel like you can't stop it or control it? All right. Next question you can think about is this one. Do you find yourself being easily annoyed or irritated or snapping a lot as a result of your preoccupation with the relationship? So think about the relationship and think about, whether you have been stuck lately, focusing on it, thinking about it, feeling nervous about it, worrying about it, and just in general. Is this relationship making you feel like you are a little bit sort of off the beam, a little bit off track, not yourself? You're quicker to snap or get irritated, the littlest things. A lot of times that is an indicator that there is some significant anxiety that is impacting you. Now, take a moment and think about how many days a week you really found yourself feeling some of these things, worrying like this, feeling anxious, feeling preoccupied, feeling irritated or annoyed. Sometimes, honestly, I can share as a psychologist, having been a psychologist for over 20 years, bad relationships or stressful relationships can impact how a person feels, not just their feelings, but also in their body. It can affect how much they want to eat, maybe overeating or undereating. It can affect their sleeping. Maybe they're not sleeping peacefully, they're sleeping fitfully, or they're waking up in the middle of the night. They just feel worried. When a relationship is causing extreme anxiety, it can feel like the person just feels overwhelmed, can't function in the normal ways that they normally do. And, if this is you, if you feel like, wow, I'm realizing this relationship is really making me feel very anxious, it's really important to ask yourself, well, what's the plan? What is your plan to help relieve this anxiety? Now, for some people, they may find that this relationship isn't working for them, that the relationship is causing them stress. Some people may decide to end a relationship because they just know instinctively that this isn't the right one for them. Others may stay in that relationship, but actually start doing some work, taking some action, maybe start seeing a therapist or get some good self help books. Obviously, watching videos like this where people can get some education about thoughts and feelings and mental health in general. So, there are definitely different things one can do. Here's what I would say. These kinds of problems, if you are feeling really anxious in a relationship, it's not just going to go away automatically. There is no magical thinking, as much as any of us would like that. There is no wishful thinking for adults. We as adults, we can do it. We can try to live in denial and try to tell ourselves, "Oh, this will go away. It'll just get better." We can, but that's not really living in an adult reality. Adult reality is about accepting that sometimes we have challenges and conflicts, and that significant challenges and conflicts get better by taking good, healthy actions. Now, of course, going to a therapist, that is one option. Another option, of course, is to read books on the subject, self help books about how to improve relationships and also how to raise self esteem so that one doesn't depend too much on a relationship. The other thing I would suggest is there are some really helpful workbooks. Getting a good anxiety workbook, there are many of them online that you can find from licensed professionals. And a good anxiety workbook can give you exercises where you can actually say, I'm taking action day by day, doing little things to try to improve my situation. All right. I hope this has been helpful for you. I really don't want people to feel too anxious in relationships to the point that they feel like they are suffering. I do not believe that that's why we are put on earth to suffer. I do believe that as adults, we learn to have the choice to make our lives better. And when we do that, even if sometimes it's uncomfortable or annoying to have to take different steps and work on exercises in a workbook or call a therapist and take time out of your week to do that, well, we can all receive so many long lasting benefits in the end. All right. Also, you may want to check out my whole library of videos here on my YouTube channel, Dr. Seth, Psychologist. I also have a podcast, Insight with Dr. Seth, on Spotify and YouTube and iHeart and Apple Podcasts. I do interviews with people on all kinds of self improvement topics. Let's gain insight together. Let's gain insight into ourselves and others so that we can have better, richer lives. Have a good one, everybody.